El-Rufai sacks Chief of Staff not long after he referred to Sanusi Lamido as a former emir. Any connection? We'll talk about it this morning. And of course, glad to have you on the breakfast this morning, Wednesday morning, the 13th of October 2021. Thanks for joining us, and we hope that we have a very interesting run on the breakfast this morning. I am Osaogie Ogbowa.
And I am Mercy Bobo.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
We have a lot of things to talk about this morning. We're going to start, as always, with our top trending stories, where, of course, we have a video clip to, first of all, share with you, and then we get right into that conversation. All right, just before that comes up, let's move to Kaduna State, where there is some controversy brewing. Apparently, the chief of staff to the Kaduna State governor was sacked, but that's not unusual. The only challenge here is that it seems to have happened not long after he referred to the Sanusi Lamido as a former emir of Kano while addressing a delegation in public. And that's really where the challenge is. And of course, immediately after he left the podium, the Sanusi Lamido then stepped forward and said, well, since you referred to me as the emir or former emir of Kano, I'm going to refer to you as the former chief of staff. And you know why shortly. Not long after that, the chief of staff to the Kaduna State government was sacked. And that has, created some controversy, of course, across Nigeria. The same thing that I referred to yesterday when I made mention of the Raymond Dokbesi, pledging his support for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And not long after that, the the Federal High Court then asked the EFCC to take him off their watch list. And yesterday I said it might just be a little bit of coincidence. But this one doesn't seem to be or to have a lot of coincidence. It seems to have been pre-planned or seems to have been, the effect of seeming disrespect to the emir of Kano. I'm sure you must have seen that clip.
Yes, I have actually seen the clip, and for me, I just think that we're very big with titles in Nigeria. That's a very, very serious one. So, for instance, you just have the fact that if your name is apparently you've traveled to Jerusalem, you would probably have your name as Messi Jepi at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But the truth is, over time, we've actually addressed several governors as former governor. You say former governor of Lagos State, former governor of Cross River State, former governor of Rivers State.
Yeah.
So I'm asking if, we still address these governors, because if they come for a function or an event, you get to address them as former governors. Why is that not a big deal? So why is this really, really a big deal?
Well, I'm going to talk about it after the video, please. We're going to share the clip with you, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it and some of the angles that Mercy just brought up after this. So quickly enjoy this.
Your Royal Highness, the Emir of Zazzau and the former Emir of Kano.
And to be honest, when I looked through the plan and when I listened to I'll call him the former chief of staff, and you'll understand why later. Next time, don't call me former Emir. There is nothing like that.
Well, that's exactly how it played out. And, of course, next news that broke was that the chief of staff had been sacked. And so, one of the things that you mentioned, so this, professor, that, he made...
Because
he may not even answer your question, because you need to address him properly.
The truth is, let's be very realistic. I mean, these are titles. That's not how, this is not who you are.
I mean, it is. I mean, some people would say, well, I mean, this is who I am. I've worked hard to earn this title, and so I want to be addressed as this. The only challenge here is that Sanusi used to be the emir of Kano, and the only one, until sometime in 2020 when he fell out with the Kano state government. They accused him of disrespecting the government and disrespecting the emirate. And, there was also some little corruption charges here and there. and then the Kano State Governor, Abdullahi Ganduje, then, set up 4 new MIs of Kano. And so, the idea was to whittle down his powers, and this, I think, was in March 2028, if he still can be referred to as the MI of Kano, which I don't think.
Because yesterday, I think that the internet has been buzzing with that particular one. That same, the argument that you're putting up for right now, you have a lot of Nigerians who think that really, should we even address him as the former emir? Because at some point it feels like it was really dethroned and all of that. That's, that's also another angle to the particular one. But I'm thinking, could it be that when he said, I was going to address you like the former chief of staff, could it be that that was a signal that was sent that led to his being dismissed?
Yeah, I also saw some of those comments and people who said that it's possible that he also had heard of, a possible cabinet reshuffle happening in Kaduna State pretty soon, and that's why he made that statement, knowing beforehand that the chief of staff was going to be taken out, which is just conspiracy theories or people, overthinking. But another question, that I would want to ask is, does he really have that much power in Kaduna State? And what really has been the relationship with him and the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, for him to be able to say, well, this person disrespected me and I would like him sacked? Do those things really happen? Nigeria is not the type of country where, these things can happen and you can sue, for, being fired, for unlawfully or something like that. And so you have to, of course, live with the consequences of some of these actions. But what would, Sanusi now, Lamido Sanusi, want to be referred to as? Would he still want to be referred to as the MI of Kano, or the MI of a certain region, or the current former MI of Kano? I don't. It's a little confusing. And
I'm sure
these are some of the things that were asked yesterday. What exactly would you like to be referred to as if you're no longer seen as the only MI of Kano?
Maybe, just maybe, there's an opportunity to speak with him, and then we'll find out what he would like to be referred to as, because it's quite confusing. I mean, I think that if you ask me, if you have to discharge, if you have to let go of someone, fire them, they should be sacked based on the fact that they're not able to, discharge their duties, or probably that some form of not living up to expectation duty-wise, and also let's just also talk about maybe rules and regulations of the engagement of the entire service. That should be the basis of sacking or letting go of someone. Yeah. I'm sure there's a rule. I'm sure there's a procedure. Because right now it feels very flimsy.
It feels personal, and these are not crimes. And, I've also gotten confirmation that they are both very, very good friends. I'm talking about the Kaduna State Governor now and Sanusi. You can tell that I'm even being careful. I don't want to say former, or I want to say, I also don't want to say MI of Kano. So I might as well just go ahead and call him, one of the MIs of Kano. Not the only one, but one of the MIs in Kano. And the Kaduna State Governor are really, really good friends. And so it's really the situation, what Nigeria really is. If you have a relationship with somebody, you can really pull those type of favors every now and then if you feel disrespected. Same way people can be driving and, police checkpoint stop them and they say, I'll call your boss, and get themselves out of trouble.
For discharging your duties.
Yeah, simple things like that, and it is what it is, and that's really how Nigeria is. So I want to just hope, the same way I was saying, let's give a benefit of doubt that maybe yesterday's situation with Raymond Dokpesi and Tinubu, maybe it's the same thing here, that it doesn't necessarily mean that he, called El-Rufai and, called in that favor. Maybe, El-Rufai was always going to sack in the, chief of staff in the first place.
But even if that's going to happen, I mean, we're just looking at the time again, we're looking at the timing.
Yes.
Timing is really, really, because for me, it feels like that probably would have just been a signal. So I would definitely address you as a former. And shortly after that, he lost his job.
Fine. Anyway. We'll move away from Kaduna State now, and then let's move into sports. And I'm sure Wale Scott will be excited to talk about some of these things later. The Tigress, who are Nigeria's athletes, when they perform exceptionally, they eventually do not get their wages or do not get their payments or not get what, is accrued to them. And so we're going to let you watch this and hear what they had to say, and then we'll talk about it when we come back. Enjoy this.
2019 and 2021, which is historical, but still no invitation has been extended to the team to visit Aso Rock or a presidential handshake. Why?
President of MBBF, Musa Kita, said that the Federation isn't owing any players, officials, or vendors. This is far from the truth. The last time we checked, our allowances, stipends, bonuses, training grants, and donations made by banks for players, officials, and volunteers still have not been paid.
We are owed $73,118 from the NBBF, $24,000 from the Ministry for the Tokyo Grant, and $100,000 from donations from 3 banks in Nigeria.
Oh, well, I saw that yesterday, and I actually did have a good laugh, mostly because this is not new. I remember that we've spoken about something similar with regards to Super Eagles coach Kenneth Raw being owed about 5 months' salary. We also need to move away or develop our sports industry to a stage where the players are no longer dependent on government's financing. Well, government should finance definitely, but the benefits of winning. There should be some level of private sponsorship. There should be sporting brands. There should be beverage brands. There should be all those brands who come together to support. And so whenever you win, an athletics championship, basketball, football, shot put, whatever, it is, you're sure that you would either be signed by, one agency or the other, or one, sporting brand will sign you up, and you get millions of naira simply by doing that, instead of waiting for the Nigerian government all the time to pay. And that's what I said then. But the challenge, I'm just going to quickly say this, that from what they mentioned, they said they're owed $73,000 by the NBBF, $24,000 from a Tokyo grant that was given to them, and $100,000 from Nigerian banks that also donated to them. None of them have been paid to the female basketball team. And that tells me that even when private bodies donate to these people, they still don't get it.
Now, so let's start from the beginning, where you talked about the fact that it should not be left to government alone to actually fund, especially when you have these persons going out to represent the country at different kind of sports and all of that. There should be some private support.
Yeah.
Let's also talk about reportage. Let's talk about patronage. If you look at the way we patronize, the other leagues that are not the Nigerian leagues, or other sports and all of that, you find that we don't have so much patronage. How many persons can actually say? I know a lot of people have the jersey, right, the Nigerian jersey, but if you want to compare that to the number of persons who own the foreign jerseys, or the different clubs, Man U, the Liverpool, the Arsenal, and what have you, you find that it's not enough. I'm talking about how many persons are really patronizing the Nigerian,
But that's mostly, and you may want.
So if we don't have at the individual level people patronizing, how do you then now say you want people to begin to finance, to support all of that sponsorship? But it might just be very difficult. So I think that it's high time that we begin to.
And that sounds good. Pretty much the same thing with telling Nigerians to buy local brands. And stop buying foreign-made cars. Stop buying the Toyotas and the Mercedes. Buy innocent. It's pretty much the same thing. Support your local teams. Go to the stadium, Teslim Balogun Stadium. Go to the stadium in Enugu State and watch Rangers and some of all of that, which I did a few times. But we can't also argue and deny the fact that I don't think that they've also made it attractive enough for Nigerians to find that level of interest. Nobody wakes up in the morning and decides to just go and support because, it's a patriotic thing to do. It has to be attractive to some level.
Totally
and
agree.
That's what they've done outside Nigeria. Look at the South African League. And you see the stadium is full every single time Orlando Pirates is playing.
Individuals, let's begin to have organizations actually support, throwing the weight behind finances and all of that. That's a good one. But like you also mentioned, it's also important to make it attractive, because if it's not attractive enough, how then do you want to put out your money, all of that? Then it's quite unfortunate, if you ask me. It's really, really sad.
Multiple times and said that he basically doesn't show up for anything that they do. He only shows up when it's time to take pictures with them after they win. If they're going for training, they're having conferences, they're having anything useful, he doesn't show up. And that's what the girl said in the full length of that video. And he only shows up when it's time to take pictures with the president, or when they win a trophy, and then he comes to take pictures and carry the trophy with them, and some of all of that, which really, is very, very indicting on him. Pretty much has been the same thing, or was the same thing with Simon Dalong when he was sports minister back then. And so these are very stereotyped Nigerian problems, very, very, very typical Nigerian challenges in every single sector of the country. And the sports is not left out. The same failures that we've had in government at every level, education, healthcare, infrastructure, whatever you want to call, affects every single level, and that includes sports also. These ones are even lucky that they're outside Nigeria. You can hear the accents. They're not even here in Nigeria. Imagine they were in Ibadan or in Lagos. They wouldn't even have energy to make this video and talk about some of all these things. And
but apart from the fact that, you know, for me, I'm actually laughing at it's a very serious thing.
Oh, I find it funny.
I think that, you know, it's high time that we step up the game, because we can't continue like this, because something will just definitely wake up and don't have, you know, persons representing us, you know, at any level in any sports entirely.
Yeah.
And that would really, really, really be bad for
That,
us.
you know, and I hope, okay, well, I don't want to, you know, speak negatively and say I hope that everyone just realizes that you shouldn't expect anything from you know, the Nigerian side when you go to play for Nigeria. And that's why you see many of these athletes deciding to play for, to play sports for totally different countries. They'll go to Portugal, they'll go to England, they'll go to Australia, any country whatsoever that would take up, you know, them. They would move and, you know, leave the Nigerian sports industry simply because they've seen from time and time again that there's barely any support coming from the Nigerian side. And no matter the amount of money that is donated or is promised to them, they never get it. You know, maybe after years and years and years. Look at Choma Ajunwa. It was months ago that we started hearing that the current Lagos State governor gave her a house that was promised to her
How many years
more than 10, 15 years ago when she won the Olympic gold. And so it's pretty much the same thing that has happened over time till now, which is extremely shameful.
Very shameful.
For everyone who has, of course, any relationship with the Nigerian sporting industry. And I hope that's one of the things that we'll be talking about today, because sometime later on the show, we'll be talking about Nigeria, the government, and of course assessing the performances of its ministers. These are some of the things that should be asked. What exactly will the sports ministry be able to say that they have achieved since they've been there, you know, with all the numerous challenges that we've had in the last couple of years? I look forward to that conversation. It comes up sometime just after 8 a.m. this morning, sometime around 8 a.m. this morning. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're moving straight to Off the Press. We have a review of the stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. And, of course, our guests will be joining us. Good morning once again.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
There has to be a decision point. The way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, you're going to cut? I want to put it in my front room. And they said, you can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house. I said, well, it's my body and it's my front room.
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting
Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamode Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
it's been making the rounds since yesterday. INEC awaits Buhari's nod on e-transmission of results. You've got several riders underneath the bold caption. Existing law stipulates manual collision. Existing law stipulates manual collision. Amendment requires Buhari's assent. That's what INEC is saying. Direct primaries will end godfatherism, says House of Representatives chairman. And you also have another rider reading, APC-led National Assembly has subjected wishes of Nigerians to money bags.
Punch and see what we can find on the Daily Independent newspapers. It says here, Senate gets kudos over U-turn on e-transmission of reforms have stabilized banks, says the CBN governor. Bandits attack Catholic Church in Kaduna, abduct 3 students. And gunmen invade Abga rally in Anambra. Obiano escapes unhurt. Police recover AK-47 rifle, ammunition, and 4 vehicles. Those are the stories that we can find, very few of them on the Daily Independent newspapers this morning.
All right, let's move on to the Nation newspaper this morning. Looking at the front page, the bold caption reads, Senate, we bow to public on e-transmission of results. That's what's boldly written. You also have Wike Ekweremadu, law decision. You also have another rider reading, INEC, we will wait for President's assent. It's underneath the bold caption on the Nation newspaper. Reps OK Southwest Development Commission. That's also another one on page 6. And custom duties, 91 private jets, rigs for feature. That's also on page 5. Agency clear.
I think that was in Anambra. There was also an attack on one of the things that I shared on Daily Independent, and gunmen invading an Abga rally in Anambra. Well, let's move now to the Daily Trust newspapers. Big one there says, despite bid disqualification, federal government moves to award Intel's multi-billion naira boat service contract. It says also, BPP NPA kick as the company demands 25 years and 25% commission. President passes buck, ministry mom. Sad one, it says here 1,153 civilians, 176 security personnel killed in 3 months. And also Nigerian railway, a moribund sector roars. Insecurity, 62 private jet owners shun customs verification. And abducted Kebbi students freed after over 100 days in captivity. Those are the big ones on the Daily Trust newspapers this morning. We'll say good morning to our guest, Mr. Femi Lawson. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, let's start with the big one on the Daily Trust newspapers this morning. On one of the stories there that says 1,153 civilians, 176 security personnel killed in 3 months here in Nigeria. Let's get your thoughts on that one. You would only see these figures in a country that is at a full-blown war, I believe. But what exactly is going on in Nigeria?
The truth that whether anybody likes it or not, the country seems to be at war with itself. Because not even, during the Civil War, did we record this number of people being killed within just 90 days. Between July and September, just like you said, we've lost over 1,000 Nigerians. We've lost 176 security personnel. In just 90 days, just 3 months, it tells you that something is very, very wrong. The truth is that even for societies that are fighting, physical war, would not have imagined that 1,000 of the citizens would get killed in just 90 days. But unfortunately, we keep moving on as if nothing is actually wrong. It is frightening that life has become so brutish that it does not really make meaning to the Nigerian state any longer. That in 90 days, over 1,000 citizens, have been killed, and the country seems to be moving on like nothing is really happening. It is alarming.
And if you also notice on the Daily Post, it says the abducted Kebbi students freed after over 100 days in captivity.
It's sad. It's sad because we were held here in 2014 when the unfortunate incident in Chibok happened, when schoolgirls were abducted. But today, the manner of silence that has greeted the abduction of the Kebbi students, not only that, we remember the Petra Baptist, students in Kaduna. Remember those children who were also kidnapped in Niger State. Our government seems to keep moving on. How even those who were vocal in 2014 when Chibok children accusing government of abandoning them to their fate. So we should be glad that these children are being released, but we should also be worried that a whole number of our children can be adopted, and the state keep acting as if nothing really is wrong. It is worrisome. It's really worrisome. But we should be glad that at least these children are being freed. And remember that while these children are being freed, some others are being abducted. Like the report we received from Kaduna yesterday. So I think it's really cause for serious concern.
Okay, but if you also remember when all of these issues actually started, I mean, there was an introduction of the Safe School Initiative program to ensure that there is perimeter fencing. I mean, the school is actually protected. All of the schools, especially in the northern region, has got all of this protection to ensure that there's no repetition of all of these kidnaps. The Safe School Initiative program that was introduced, I mean, shortly after the Boko Haram, the Chibok students were kidnapped. So what do you really make of this? Because it's not about the fact that this has been occurring over and over again, and this program was introduced to ensure that that does not repeat itself and that students are protected in this particular region. But with the Safe School Initiative program, nothing seemed to have changed.
You see, nothing has changed because these policies are mere policies that are formulated in Abuja and does not exceed, the desk of the policymakers whenever these policies are made. The truth is that for all the recorded incidences, of school kidnap, attacks on schools that have been witnessed over the last couple of years, has there been any resistance? Has there been any time that, we have reports of, one school not being successfully invaded when these attempts are made? The School Safe Initiative was a mere, declaration, a mere formal policy of government that has never been followed up, with any practical, step. Today, you can have from people from all over the country. If there is actually any school, anywhere, apart from the private institution, that enjoys special security coverage or have dedicated security network, the way the country protects pipelines, the way the country protects, critical infrastructures. None. So the schools have been left to their fate. The school children have been left to their fate. And it's very unfortunate that the school, the initiative was merely a declaration that has not been followed up with any practical, enforcement.
Okay, so let's look at the Punch newspaper now. One of the big stories saying that INEC awaits Buhari's nod on e-transmission of result. A lot of Nigerians are quite excited with the fact that, yes, the lawmakers have actually...
is coming to an agreement that the INEC could determine the mode of elections, how it conducts its elections in Nigeria. What the National Assembly was attempting to do before was to interfere in the process of Nigeria, going by the reactions that trailed the earlier rejection of the electoral sanction of results by the House of Reps and by the National Assembly, so to put it. So I think it's a good one.
Yeah, so why then are they waiting for a nod from the president?
And I don't think there should be any debate further on this, other than come again, please.
I'm asking why then is INEC saying that they are waiting for a go-ahead from the president?
Well, INEC itself, must understand that it is an establishment of the law, and the powers are clearly stated in the law. So waiting for the president's nod on e-transmission does not sound properly correct, and I don't really want to even agree with that headline when I read it, because I would not want to imagine when it becomes, the power of the president to decide how elections are conducted, especially when it is an election that the president himself may likely be participating in. So I don't completely want to agree with that headline that says elect away Buhari's nod on the transmission of results. If the amendment has been done on the Electoral Act, of course, it's inevitable for the president to assent the Electoral Act when amended. But I don't think it is basically because the president will have to give go ahead or not on the transmission of results. I don't want to think that's correct.
Femi Lawson, let's move over to something on the Daily Independent. It says reps okay creation of Southwest and Southeast development commissions. Quickly share your thoughts on that one. Of course, we're aware that there's a Niger Delta Development Commission. There's also one in the north. Does it seem okay that we are spreading development commissions across different regions?
You come to ask yourself why we keep, balkanizing the entity that we claim to be united. It tells you that all is not well when each region of the country continue to think there's a need, for special attention to their region. The truth is that what has the North, East Development Commission been able to do as far as addressing the issue of the crisis in the Northeast region of the country today is concerned. And I don't think, rather than creating, development commissions and all these, funny bodies that the reps are moving to create, again, we should be moving towards a proper restructuring of the country in order to make this region and our state work the way they should. No number of, the regions become empowered, the state become empowered, and I don't think there'll be any need for this kind of agitation that are only meant to create, some unnecessary commissions to begin to raise a new set of millionaires among the political class. I don't think it's a necessary move.
Okay, so let's also look at the Nation newspaper this morning. Another big story here says, custom duties, 91 private jets risks forfeiture. For a country that it's been reported that we're topping we're number 3, on that board.
Prescribed duties for jet, vehicle, or whatever it's called that are imported to the country. And if you understand the fact that most of these private jets are owned by people so close to power, a lot of them do not only evade duty payment on their private jets, a lot of them also evade duty payment on importation of vehicles and other, goods into the country because of their access, to power and those in authority. If the custom has genuinely found out that people are evading the payment of duty or under declaring the worth, of these vehicles, these aircraft that are being brought into the country, it is within the power of the customs to make the necessary sanctions available and get those who have violated,
Experts say Naira devaluation will push inflation to 25%. And of course,
inflation is already at that point. But I think by now, the economic team of the federal government should have been seen to be engaged in strict and emergency, measures to address this unprecedented manner that our currency is falling and inflation is affecting virtually all goods. Central bank alone to address the entire economic, policy team of the government, stakeholders within the sector must be brought together at this time to, find a way out of this. It is no longer a time for rhetoric. It is no longer a time for assumptions. It is a time for practical steps to be taken. And if we don't do this, we are pushing our people.
I want you to speak on something on the punch. It's on the bottom left corner of the punch, and that's with regards to the NSARS. I spoke about it yesterday briefly. It says the NSARS, Lagos loses 9.7 billion naira to toll gates closure as it plans reopening of the toll gate. So I want you to get your thoughts on that. And of course, if you've noticed, if you've heard about the toll gate lately, you must see that there is has been some police presence in the last few days at toll gate. Maybe expecting another protest, maybe expecting that there might be people gathered there to do a memorial of the NSAS protest 1 year after the NSAS protest began. So
have they been able to value the life about making money, not minding what becomes the fate of the citizens that is claimed to be governing? The Nigerian state, have questions to answer about the killings in Lekki. The state government and various state panels of inquiry, and they are yet to turn in their report, including Lagos State, where report is expected today. So why is the state so anxious of peacefully, remembering those who were killed callously on October 20 last year?
Thank you very much, as always, for joining us and for sharing to share with you about how some people were rescued after close to 100 days on the ground. And then right after that, our first major conversation for today.
In Nigeria.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before.
We the youths are the ones that can make it better.
Events or business services to advertise on Plus live here.
Finally were rescued. And of course, if you remember in 2010, this made headlines across the world. It was called the Copa. And rescuers attempted to bypass the rockfall at the main entryway, but found each route blocked by fallen rocks or threatened by way back up and be reunited with their families once again. So this happened on this day in history in the year 2010, 13th of October, I beg your pardon, in 2010. That's all we have for you today in history. Stay with us. We'll take a short break. We'll move into our first major conversation for today, and it's talking about a performance review for Nigeria's current ministers. The president, of course, set up a performance review retreat, and we're going to be talking about that next with Opunabo Inkotare after this very, very short break. Great to have you back here on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Now let's begin our first major conversation for today. And of course, it's going to be talking about a review of Nigeria's current ministers being done by President's positions to head MDAs and of course, head certain government agencies across the country. And I remember also that there was he appointed to head these agencies.
Well, I think his assessment is poor and planned on sentiment, not really sentimental, not as a result of their performance. So if you ask me, for example, they call it a retreat, it's okay, it's quite normal. Governments, both at state and federal levels, go on retreats. principally for appraisal to assess their performances in office. But you see, those retreats are just, to me, a mere jamboree. The retreat will only make sense when they are there to learn, when you invite experts to taste them one or two. Are you going to tell that you turn a blind eye until when you have a retreat? It doesn't really make sense. So it's just another jamboree. But if you talk of a retreat to further lecture these public officers on how to maximize, how to get maximum performance, then I will agree with you, because we learn till the day we get to our grave, till the day we die. But to tell me that the retreat is basically to assess the performance, carry out an appraisal of the ministers and their performances in office, to me it's just a mere jamboree. I'm not really interested in that.
Okay. Let's start with the Ministry of Works and Housing under the leadership of Babatunde Fashola. How well do you think the ministry had fared in the area of federal government?
Of the railways precisely, he has also performed. But that's why I said not more than 3 ministers. If we talk of the defense, it's an abysmal failure. If we talk of the health, of course, the health minister is just there, one egocentric, one megalomaniac. That's the way I dismiss that health minister. He's probably the worst health minister in the history of this country. Full of high blood pressure, deceptive rhetoric, and anemia of concrete performance. Same applies to the Minister for Labour, Dr. Ngige, who is a disgrace in office. So if you ask me, a lot of them ought not to be there. And for Malami, Malami should be disbarred. Malami is a disgrace to the legal profession. So who are we going to talk about? I mean, a lot of them. Femi Adesina, what are you doing, my friend? You're reminding me of this character. Who are you showing me? That special assistant to the... Well, I don't even refer to those ones. Those are just misplaced characters. So a lot of them, I must tell you the truth, have performed abysmally. A whole lot of them. That's why I said the credit can be given to not more than 3 ministers. Not more than 3 ministers. And if the public will assess, then why won't Mr. President assess? Or are we talking of the Boko Haram minister, the Pantami himself? So who are we going to refer to? We just have not more than 3 ministers in this government that are actually performing. The rest have no business being in government. They are only there to feather their pockets and also boost their ego. That's all.
Well, Mr. Nkotari, you made mention of Fashola and, of course, Rotimi.
Minister, you expected, of course, the ball stops at Mr. President's table.
Yes.
You can have the best of ideas, you can have the best of brains, and so on. You can ideate issues, but if Mr. President says no, he has to anoint them for them to manifest. No doubt about that. But when you talk of performance, you're looking at it's evidentiary proof. For example, you talk of Fashola, we can see that notwithstanding the poor budget allocation, because when you talk of money budgeted to a particular ministry, we are not just talking of the announcement, the pronouncement. We are talking of the release of the funds. So if you assert that you're a woman, we can see what is lately. I'm very sorry to say that the fault is for the Ministry of Federal Lawmaking. That's what I refer to as the National Assembly to us. Look at labor. Of course, every second we have workers going on strike and so on. So which ministry are you going to be? Has risen astronomically. We all agree there's an exponential rise. So what is the Minister of Agriculture doing? Are you going to talk of them? Of course, I will tell you what the failures in those ministries. So I'm just giving you the barometer with which you can measure the failure or success of the ministry.
Yeah, but Mr. Nkotari, and this is what I want you to clarify. Is the standards and the barometer, like you've mentioned, is it based on what it should be or based on what we've experienced in the past? And so we're finally seeing something different, and so we should, give a round of applause to these persons. And I'm focusing on maybe, being at snail speed compared to what we're currently seeing now, or you're rating it based on what you think a developing country should have as its performance standard for a ministry of transportation?
Well, Well, I'm not basing it, I'm not planting my assessment on antecedents. No, not at all. Not at all. My assessment is premised on what it ought to be and given the prevailing circumstances. That's the way I assess it. So much, for example, look at the Ministry of Transportation. So I'm not really basing it on the antecedents or the past of former ministers and former governments. No. What it ought to be is what I'm saying. The sums are allocated to the ministry. What have they done with it, or what it is in civilized climate? I'm talking of what, given the resources, given the prevailing circumstances, what these ministers would have achieved within the prevailing circumstances.
Okay, but you have actually commended Babatunde Fashola, saying that in your own rating that you think he's actually performed very well. Let's also not forget that he controls, three...
Look at the aviation ministry now. All the aviation workers are going on strike. So are you going to say the aviation minister is performing?
Okay.
They've all resigned. Pilots and key aviation personnel have all resigned. So the aviation industry is...
He controls the power sector, he controls works and housing. Let's look at the power sector. Do you think that, there's any improvement? There has been any improvement in the power sector from 2015 up until this point? Do you think?
Sorry?
Do you think that there's been any improvement in, the sectors that he controls from 2015 up until this moment?
Well, talking of the power sector, he himself admitted Mr. President must be sincere and must be prepared to ensure that the power sector works. You have a cabal that is frustrating, a cabal that is hamstringing efforts of any minister. And it depends on Mr. You see, that's what I'm saying. And because he failed in that aspect, that ministry was taken away from him. So we are talking of the retreat of now, not the retreat of 2015 or 2014, or 2016 rather. We are talking of the retreat of now. He failed in the power sector, no doubt about that. And he has also admitted that much. Nigerians will also agree that he failed in the power sector. But we are talking of the retreat of now. That's what we are referring to.
Saleh Maman,
we are not talking of the retreat of 2016. Sorry?
I was just going to clarify, Saleh Maman is currently the Minister of Power, and of course he will be assessed.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We are talking of retreat of now, not retreat of 2016 or 2017.
Now, let's talk about some of the things that you've, somehow, some way mentioned, and those are the stumbling blocks that may have prevented some of these persons from performing. And I'm going to, spread this across all, available ministries in the country today, and some of the people that will be assessed in this retreat. Would you say that there are certain reasons why they may have not been able to perform to the best of their abilities?
I think principally it has to do with the principle that Mr. President himself, because the leadership determines the full ownership to a large extent. You have a president that is, how will I put it, complacent. He doesn't care. What he's just interested in is he has doing in the various ministries or what Nigerians are saying, just like the Section 52 of the electoral that has been amended. Senate responded to the yearnings, to the cries of Nigerians. And they went ahead with the amendment. That is what we expect. But we have a president that is impervious to criticism. Shout from now till tomorrow that Minister A is not performing. In fact, that is when he will even fortify Minister A the more. We've seen it even in appointments and so on. And so as a result of this, most of these ministers believe that they're untouchable. And the only thing they do is ingratiate themselves with Mr. President and with the cabal. And once Mr. President and the cabal are okay, are comfortable with them, then they go to hell with any other individual. That is what is going on. And so they are not answerable to Nigerians. So even most of these ministers, you release their budget to them, most of them will use the money to further line their pocket. Because they know that no amount of demonstration, no amount of protestation, no amount of criticism will remove them from office. In fact, the more you criticize the minister, the more Mr. President says you are attacking his government, you are the enemy of the government. So Mr. President has just been cased as a result of the president. I don't want to use a certain word. So he has just been cased, and that is the bane of his government. The president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, all best hands when it comes to ministerial appointments. In Rivers State, we had a situation like that under King Alfred J.T. Street, the first military governor of Rivers State, 67 to 75. But and we saw the development in Rivers State. It's unparalleled to tomorrow. We are talking of since 1967 to date. It's unparalleled, I can tell you that. So we are talking of the best hand. After that, will I permit me to use this one? Nincompoop around who are there not necessarily in the interest of the masses, but they are there principally because first they believe it is their right, that they were the ones that ensured the emergence of Buhari as Mr. President. Therefore, it is their turn to enjoy. And that is where they see it. So they go there, and what they do is tell Mr. President, you have what you call the cognitive dissonance theory. You tell Mr. President what he wants to hear, and because that is what he wants to hear, that is what he does. But if he's a president that is open to criticism, he's going to listen to the media and will get the feedback from the masses, which is going to be independent of the feedback of what these lieutenants are telling him. And that is the only that is the only way you can be abreast with what is going on in the country and try as much as you can to make your amends if you are going to the crash. Will definitely fail. Because those in office, those lieutenants, will never do anything that will ensure their exit from power. They will never. So no minister will go and tell the other one that the president that I'm not performing will remove me or I want to resign. It's not done. It's an anomaly. Even when I resigned in Rivers State, it was news. Oh, but what is wrong with you? Why will you resign? How many ministers will do that? No minister will do that. And unless you have a personal feud with another minister, it is like scratch my back, I scratch your back. Now you have Mr. President who is even insulating himself from a minister. How can you tell your minister to go through your chief of staff or go through your SSG if they want to see you? It is insane. It is madness. Your ministers and special advisors should have unfettered access to you. Now you say they should go through SSG, they should go through chief of staff. Okay. In other words, you are now telling them to be submissive to the SSG and the chief of staff. And if the SSG and the chief of staff have personal interest, the ministers they don't have a choice but to ensure that they do their biddings. They'll ensure that they do their biddings because for them to have access to you, they have to go through this. Then you all now said even your ministers should go through SSG or something. That is actually a military creation. Secretary, you tell president, or for what reason? I tell you, so no, I don't like this.
Poor performance of the ministers that should be on the president.
Leadership, that ministry should be taken under advisement. How many ministries? I can't start mentioning all. So everyone is healthcare. Or SARS now, or SARS. Why are you being sarcastic? I just mentioned. I don't want to go.
Bashar Magashi.
Oh, please don't go there. The man who said you should carry a gun and protect yourself without you having a license to carry that gun, is that the man you said is performing? The man who said Nigeria should defend, is that not admission of failure? Oh, please don't talk of the Minister for Defense. Don't talk of that monologue Minister for Defense. We are talking of digital approach, military approach. Don't separatist movement assuming apocalyptic dimensions and so on. What are we talking about? Our lives are endangered on a daily basis. So which defense? Monies we allocated to the former minister for the former chief of army or former service chiefs. The NSA himself admitted that the monies released to them were not used for the same purpose, yet they were made ambassadors. The Minister for Defense admitted that much. Their successors admitted that much, that there is nothing to show for how much they have received, and they were made ambassadors. Are you talking of defense? No, please, don't talk of defense now. Don't talk of defense. We can glorify, we can commend the government for banditry and insurgency. We can commend the government for fertilizing the ground for banditry and insurgency. No doubt, we can do that. But to contain it, no. I mean, the government should be praised for the opposite and not for containing bandits and insurgents. You praise them for fermenting media. I mean, they are growing, they are germinating.
As to people who he appointed based on, their level of competence and trust that he had in them. But I want you to compare, that era with where we are today, and why that has changed. And also, what exactly do they talk about when they attend Federal Executive Council meetings? That the president...
Well, I haven't that, especially on legal matters, whatever the Attorney General says, no matter how skewed and illegal the advice is, Mr. President will say, I agree with that. And that is all. On a few occasions, you have Fashola and the Vice President opposing him to say, no, it is illegal, it is wrong. So it depends on Mr. President. If you allow the cross-fertilization of ideas, I don't think those at the ESCO, Federal Executive Council, are all dons. Even if 10 of them are going, or 15 or 20 of them, at least you are going to have another 15 or 10 that will oppose, and you come up with policies that will be of national interest. But what is the problem? Like I said, you have Mr. President being controlled by cabal. And so every other person is just there to complete the number. We might have an ESCO meeting. And already I can say, okay, fine, I believe you're an art student, so you know what they call the cognitive dissonance theory. We can have an ESCO meeting, and I say, okay, there is no problem. You, what is your view on this? You, what is your view on this? You, what is the... After expressing your views, I say, I think I agree with Mr. A because I'm the man in charge. And I am agreeing with Mr. A not because I am convinced that Mr. A is saying the right thing or because Mr. A actually said the right thing. But I agree with Mr. A because I believe that Mr. A is 100% loyal to me, that he will be protecting my interests as against national interests. You see, that's the truth. And that's why most times when you have dissenting views, the first thing Mr. President will say are those that want to bring down my government. It is the most ridiculous statement any civilian president will say. We are not in a military regime. We are not in a military regime. So they decipher sinister plots behind every dissenting word and see dangerous enemies in the faintest shadows. That is just the problem we have with this government. So you have an ESCO meeting because you must have an ESCO meeting. It's a constitutional requirement. The ESCO must approve the contracts. Otherwise, those such contracts are illegal. So you must have an ESCO meeting. But most of them go into the ESCO meeting with predetermined, with a mindset. And you don't go into a meeting with a mindset. You go into a meeting prepared to submit yourself to superior arguments. That is the truth about it. But I don't think that is the case with the Federal Executive Council meeting. But apart from him, nobody has come to say finance. Rather, they defend the ineptitude of the government. So I cannot say finance is the problem. And why would finance be the problem? This is the government that has borrowed more than any other government in the history of this country. And every other, in the past, the governments were able to address most of these issues. Mismanagement of our resources, which the president is also guilty of. He's always out of the country, even his medical tour alone. You have a president who has been in office for 60.5 years and cannot turn around our health sector. It is a shame that up till now, he's still traveling abroad for medical treatment. Tinubu just left the country and just got back for medical treatment. That is symptomatic of the poor medical state of our health facilities. 6.5 years down the line. Doctors are striking. Doctors, the last time we had to leave en masse to Dubai, and they blocked it. It is not by blocking it. At the airport, it's a shame that 6 years after, the president will still spend our hard-earned resources, travel to the UK for medical treatment. Whereas you have the when his wife raised the alarm that the Aso Clinic is as the boss stops as Mr. President. Because the president is corrupt, his followers are corrupt. There is no that. People say Mr. President might not be corrupt, but the followers are corrupt. Ridiculous. It suffers from eclipse of reason and poverty of logic. Mr. President is corrupt, so the followers are corrupt. That's the truth. When the head is rotting, the tail will be rotten. Like Senate is trying to redeem its image, battered image. I'm talking of the Federal Ministry of Lawmaking, National Assembly. Trying to redeem its battered image. It has started responding to the calls and cries of Nigerians. It has started with amending Section 52 of the Obnoxious Electoral Act. The presidency, in as much as the period is so short, really, really short, because that is a wider scope. You're talking of the nation as a whole. But the presidency can start redeeming its image first by ensuring that all those that have been accused of financial fraud, irrespective of your party affiliation and inclination, you are prosecuted. Let him start with that. We have the Baba Shala. You know what they do? They initiate a court action and then employ the Fabian policy. They ensure that you have long adjournment and the processes will go on almost ad infinitum. But if you are an ordinary man, it's an isolated hearing and you're jailed. What has happened to the CCT chairman? That CCT chairman who displayed that madness in public. Why is he still in office? Why is he still in office? The president, the first thing we expected the president to do was to suspend him. You can't sack him. But assume this dimension because of the wrong handling. About it that the Southeasterners have been marginalized. I'm not a Southeasterner. I'm a pure South man. Pure South, and I will never be a Southeasterner. I will never be a member of Biafra. The Kanu is mad to say we are part of Biafra. Is that madness? He needs to be examined. I can never be a member of Biafra. Peace remains a fleeting illusion.
But instead based on the need to settle political, friends and put people in government that maybe
I've always said it, that what we encourage in this country is mediocrity and not meritocracy.
Yeah, so how can we end that?
For you to be a member of the House of Assembly, tell me apart from just how many House of Assembly members are close to their state governors. You mention it. If the speaker dies in the next minute with the president, is that what a leader of the National Assembly, a president of the National Assembly, to say? So you find out that all they do is, look, if we are sure you met, what will I get? Don't worry, I'll make you this so that you protect me. What is the problem? What was the problem of the former Senate president, who was the governor? What was his name again? Look at what was the because they didn't want you to emerge, knowing too well he is a strong character. He emerged, and that was the genesis of the republic. That was how he governed his public. But what is it? Why should anybody the president be interested who is going to emerge as Senate president, if not for control? And that's what is happening. So you ask where Elec has the right to decide because we have power. And so there is hunger. Hunger is palpable and pervasive. Let's take this money and vote our conscience and ensure that the right people elect this money and vote, since it's a secret thing, vote your conscience and ensure that those you trust are the ones elected. If they come in and disappoint you, it's a different ballgame altogether. That's the only way we can affect the change.
Well, that's also...
And that's the only way we can kick out all this money back with distorted perception of life that accidentally discharged under the political surface.
Yeah, well, it's a different discussion, but I will mention that...
So our shoulders to devise a means, because you just said what you said is right, is apt. Because you can only choose from what is available. And those that are available are the ones that are responsible for the problems today. You see how complicated, how convoluted it is. So what do we do?
His chiefs were eventually replaced by President Muhammadu Buhari. It took whichever. Is there ways that the president can be able to listen or be made to listen to the voices of Nigerians?
Negotiating. If you are not seized of this situation, then you must be dead. Then you are, they're physically dead. Because you are in Nigeria, NAD went on strike. ASU, epileptic, up and on. Aviation going on strike now. Protests left, right, and center. Why is NAD going on strike? Because the minister, no matter what happens, cannot agree with truth accommodation with NAD. What I mean National Resident Doctors. With NAD, without clearing with the president, because the president that will have give the approval for any agreement. So are you going to say it's not that way? It's just intellectually myopic. That's just the truth. Let's call a spade a spade. Intellectually myopic. He's not intellectually competent to rule a country like Nigeria. This is no military regime. Even as a military man, he failed. It is now clearly obvious that the man who was in charge was a Biafran. Not it. It was a Biafran. Otherwise, how do you explain it? So how do you want Nigeria to do? To kill themselves? We killed ourselves. People died. Every protest, people died. So what else do you want Nigeria to do? That's the only way. You can't have access to him. He's not even interested in you. He doesn't talk to you. So the only way is to protest. And they protest on the streets of Abuja. How else do you want them to express their disapproval of a system? And whenever they protest, you send the soldiers out. Whenever they protest, you send the soldiers out. You say, oh, there are people trying to discredit your government. How do you read? I remember once when he said, oh, they are lucky that this is not a military regime. I would have tolerated this. How will a civilian president say that on earth?
So are you saying that this is actually a hopeless situation and that Nigerians should just just
It is hopeless under General Buhari. It is hopeless under General Buhari. Yes. I bet you nothing will change.
So are you saying that Nigerians should just fold their arms and wait for 2023?
We will continue to protest. What are we going to do? We'll continue to protest. But can't you see that the 10 years litigation with the encasement has a problem today? Because the Southeasterners have never been reintegrated into the system after the Biafran War. Let us face that. They've never. They've always been segregated again, which is very wrong. Very wrong. So if you think you're going to get a change under Buhari, you must have a rethink. It's a fleeting illusion, my dear. Because he came with a mindset. A man who's talking about amnesty for criminals, not bothering about those they have murdered. Is it the same person you want to do? What kind of change are you talking about? The man who's romancing with Gumi is the hand of Esha and the voice of God. Don't you know that? I said it on this very station when Gumi was talking. I said Gumi is not alone. And today they are talking of amnesty. What are we talking about? So, my dear, forget all this.